Yeah. Let's starting. In this session, we are going to discuss Master Amazon Redshift. Okay, as part of Master Amazon Redshift, in this session, we are going to discuss what is Redshift in AWS. Okay, let's start discussing what is Redshift in AWS. So first important point, AWS Redshift is a data warehouse environment in AWS cloud. It is a data warehouse service. It is managed by AWS. And main advantage compared to other data warehouses with AWS data warehouses, it supports unlimited storage and we can take this Redshift as a service in pay as you go basis. Pay as you go basis and main purpose of Redshift is let's say we have different data sources. We have different data sources like file systems like CSV, JSON, XML, Agro, etc. And we have multiple different RDBMSs and we have different NoSQL databases. Assume we have different cloud file systems and we have different cloud data warehouses and we may have different data storages. From all these sources, we can use data ingestion technique. We can connect these sources. We can load the data into raw layer of Redshift data warehouse. We can load this data into raw layer of Redshift data warehouse. We have different techniques like Python, PySpark, Glue, Lambda, and we can use Redshift concept to ingest data from different sources to Redshift data warehouse. Here we can store history of data. History of data. We can store what? History of data. On this history, we can implement ETL or ELT operations. We can implement ETL or ELT operations using different technologies like PySpark and any other ETL framework. And once we apply ETL operations on this data, and we can store the results temporarily into stage area. We can store results into temporary area called stage. Once we can store, we can validate data is generated as expected. Data is generated as expected. Once we confirm data is generated as expected, then you can move the data into transformer layer or target layer. Then this data become to different consumers of our Redshift like BI people, QuickSight, Power BI, Tableau, etc. are machine learning people or artificial intelligence people. These people connects this data and use this data according to their requirement. If it is BI people, they are going to prepare reports or dashboards. If it is ML and AI people, they are going to do prediction operations, future prediction implementations on this Redshift data warehouse data. So we are going to apply ETL operations on raw data. Then we are make that data readily available for analytics. Okay. So this is our main purpose of data warehouse. A data warehouse is a place where we can store history of data. History of data. On that data, we apply ETL operations and make that history of data ready to do analytics. Analytics ready. we can convert raw data to analytic ready data using ETL technologies or data engineering technologies. Okay, clear, right? Yeah, let me explain one more screen. Yeah, let's see here. Uh, let me explain one more screen. Here, so we have different sources. We have different sources. Okay, we have different sources. Let me explain. So here, one important point today. Usually, how we are going to implement this one? Using data ingestion techniques, we connect to sources, and we load this data into a cloud file system called AWS S3. We call it as data lake. Okay. Usual implementation is from sources, we apply data ingestion techniques. Required, we do basic validations, and then we load the data into AWS. And from that, we implement ETL operations if required, or we can connect this source and we can load the data into this one. Or data ingestion techniques we directly use, load the data in raw layer. First approach is using data ingestion techniques. We can load directly into Redshift raw layer or load it into S3. If it is S3, then then what we are going to do? What we are going to do? Use Redshift command. We can connect to S3. Then we can load the data into this raw layer, or we can use AWS glue and we can connect this S3 and we can load the data. If any validation or any logic required to apply on three data before moving the data to Redshift, then we go to Glue or any other technology, because here data is huge volumes. If it is direct data, let's say you are moving data directly from S3 to Redshift, then you can use a simple Redshift copy command. You can move S3 data to RAW, or if it requires any checks or preliminary checks, then we use blue bit of technologies or PICE or any data processing technology to checks that preliminary checks or basic checks on S3 data. Then we move it to Redshift raw layer. Or fifth one, fifth one, we can directly apply ETL operations, ETL operations on this data, this S3 data, then result we directly load into transformer layer. These kind of implementation we can do in, we can do on source data, then persist into data warehousing. These are different kind of operations applies source data ingestion into data warehousing. Okay, multiple ways. It depends upon the architecture. Let's say, some they want to store the data into cloud file system first, because compared to data warehousing, cloud file system price is less. Cloud file system is less. On cloud file system, they may using different other techniques. They may use other modules to connect that uh, history of data. They store that one. Or they want to store directly into data warehousing instead of maintaining two different services. They want to maintain complete history of data into one location. Then people directly go to data warehousing. S3 supports unlimited storage. Redshift supports unlimited storage. Only one thing, price is different. Redshift price compared to S3 price little higher because it uses data warehousing techniques. Okay, hope you understand what is AWS Redshift. Hmm. Now let's continue Amazon Redshift architecture. As part of master Amazon Redshift, they're understanding uh, different concept. Let's start understanding Amazon Redshift architecture. So first, let me start with low level. Let's say this is my this is my Amazon Redshift cluster. This is my Amazon Redshift cluster. In Amazon Redshift cluster, we have we have leader node, and we have compute node. We have compute node. We have leader node and compute node. Leader nodes, you can take any number, any number, depends upon your requirement. You can specify any number, okay? But here we select odd number, odd numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, like that you will select it. Next one, in compute node, in compute node, nowadays we are finding a compute node with good resource like uh, 16 GB RAM, 32 GB RAM, 64 GB RAM, 8 core processor, 16 core processor, and 32 core processor. If you go with the cloud, say normal laptop and desktop, if you go with the cloud, you are getting very, very, very good resources. So here, compute node utilizes compute node utilizes that resources. You can divide a node into node slice. You can divide a node into node slice. Node slice. Okay. Like this, you can create any number of compute nodes. Any number of compute nodes. And these compute nodes you can scale depends upon your requirement. There is no limit. You can add any number of compute nodes. Compute nodes holds the data and process the data. Holds the data and process the data. Leader node takes request from clients. Leader node request from clients. Now let's understand how outside applications can communicate with AWS Redshift. AWS Redshift supports two kinds of drivers. One is JDBC and other one is ODBC. It supports JDBC and ODBC. Let's say team, I want to directly work with Redshift. Redshift provides Redshift provides nice user interface called query editor. Query editor. Using this query editor, using this query editor, using this query editor, you can you can write SQL. You can write SQL. And one more important point here, take one more important point. Amazon Redshift, Amazon Redshift implemented based on similar style of PostgreSQL. You may know Postgres is Postgres is one of the most popular RDBMS database. It supports what? SQL. So to communicate with the PostgreSQL, we use SQL, but little syntax wise, database to database, little syntax wise, MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL Server, little, not complete. All these RDBMS supports SQL, but syntax little different. Similar way, our uh, Amazon Redshift implemented similar style of PostgreSQL. So we can use PostgreSQL syntax style of SQL to communicate with Redshift. So Amazon Redshift provides query editor where we can write SQLs directly to communicate with Redshift. Or you can use any client like DBever. You can create a connection between Redshift, then you can write the queries. This is other approach. This is other approach to work with Redshift. Next one thing. Let's say you written Java application or .NET application or Python application or PySpark application or AWS Glue application or Azure data engineering application or GCP data engineering application. All these applications backend is Redshift Azure. Then Redshift providing JDBC and ODBC drivers through your application. You can communicate with Redshift. All your requests are transferred to leader node. Leader node finds worker or compute node, then assign your task to compute node. AWS Redshift is a distributed data parallel processing engine, and it can process your data very faster compared to existing data warehousing technologies. It supports unlimited storage. It supports distributed and processing. It uses dynamic resources of your compute nodes, and it will use resources capabilities, and it process your data very, very faster. In Redis architecture, there are two important components: leader node and commit node. Leader node is responsible to take the request from client applications, then uh, send request to corresponding compute nodes. You can take any number of compute nodes, depends upon your size in your Redshift cluster. Okay. Mm. Now let's start setting up your Amazon Redshift environment. Okay. Let's start log in AWS Cloud. I already logged into AWS Cloud. Let's navigate Redshift. You can see recently visited. You may see Redshift if you already used, or you can navigate by searching in search bar, type Redshift, then open in new tab. Here you can see a Redshift available in a free tier. Try Redshift serverless free trial. Okay, let's execute. Sorry, let's click try Redshift server free trial. So here you have use default settings and use custom settings. I'm using default settings for my practice purpose, I need a Redshift cluster. Okay. I'm using the use default settings. Then here we can see two important points. One is namespace, one is namespace, and other one is work group. So in Redshift, while setuping Redshift, Redshift, first we are going to use namespace. Under namespace, under namespace, we are going to create work group. We are going to create work group. Okay. So first I am giving, I am giving, I am giving namespace. First one, namespace. See here, namespace and default namespace is, it is giving different default names. If you do not want default namespace, if you do not want these default namespaces, click on custom settings, then change this default namespace to your required namespace. Let's say I want Akkem Sreenivasa hyphen namespace. Akkem Sreenivasa hyphen namespace. Database name is a dev, and I want to custom admin user and details. Username is admin. Then here, manage admin credentials. See here, generate password or manually add the password. I'm adding manual password. Manual password. Okay. Let's say this is, I'm giving India 123 123 123. Just for while connecting, I am going to use same details. Here, I am roles. I am roles. Later, I am going to create a I am. If you want to create IAM role, you can create, or later you can create and add. Next one team. Here work group team. Work group name I am giving him Sreenivasa, Sreenivasa hyphen work group. Then see capacity. I am taking default capacity and remaining options default, and virtual private network default. Then remaining options are default, and click on save configuration. Click on save configuration. It will take a few seconds of time. Let's wait to complete all these steps for setting your AWS Redshift serverless architecture. Okay, let's wait a few seconds. You can observe here, you can see it is doing configuration, setting and configuration. Let's wait a few seconds to complete this process. Yeah. Process is completed. Let's click on continue. Okay. Let's observe here. Let's observe. It is processing. Here. Your uh, dashboard, serverless dashboard. You can see namespace configuration. You can see this Akkem Sreenivas hyphen namespace. You can click on work group. You can see work group name Akkem Sreenivas hyphen work group. Now we can confirm. Now we can confirm. Yes, Amazon Redshift is configured successfully. So we set up Amazon Redshift environment. Okay, clear writing? Yeah. Now let's start understanding how to connect Amazon Red or how to work with Redshift. So in AWS Cloud, we may have 200 plus services. We may have 200 plus services. In that, in that Amazon, Amazon Redshift is a data warehousing service. Amazon Redshift is a data warehousing service and it is a serverless. It is a serverless. What is serverless team? You no need to specify, no need to create manual missions for installing Redshift software. Dynamically, based on your, it is going to create multiple compute nodes. So it will store unlimited data based on your data size. It will increase the sources. Next point. So this is we already set up Redshift environment, or we have already configured Redshift environment. Then then AWS Redshift provide a query editor, query editor to connect to Redshift. Let me show let me show Redshift. Okay. Yeah. Let me show. Once we once we set up a Redshift server, you can see Redshift dashboard. In Redshift dashboard, you can see query editor. Click on query editor. Go to query editor. In query editor, in query editor, you can see here, uh, you can see serverless Akkem Sreenivas work group. Expand this one. It will ask password. How we are going to connect this Redshift server using database username and password, or did you create any key value pair in secrets manager or federated user? It's how you database user and password. Database name is dev. What is username? Admin. And password I used is India 123 123 123. And later I am going to change just for practice purpose. I created with the password. Always recommended create your own password. Don't use common password. Then click on create a connection. So now it is successfully connected. You can see here expand native databases. See this database dev underscore database. You may see sales underscore sample data underscore dev. This I already created with the previous projects. That's why I am seeing this one. So this is sample. So two databases are created. One is dev and another one is sample underscore data underscore dev. So it is contains some schemas. These are also public schema. In dev, you can see public schema. In the public schema, you can see tables. Right now, there are no tables. There are no views. There are no functions. There are no stored functions. So now we are able to connect Redshift using query editor. Similar way of query editor, we can use different clients. In outside, we may see popular database clients. One of the popular database client is DB. So you can use DBeaver similar to query editor. Query editor is within the Redshift environment. Once I create Redshift, I do not want to open AWS Management Console. I do not want to go to Redshift environment every time. Instead, I want a client software in my machine. Then I want to connect it. There is a most popular DBeaver. Like DBeaver, you can see plenty of software which supports JDBC, ODBC. Whatever RDBMS supports, JDBC, ODBC, you can use that popular database client software and you can create a connection between Redshift with your client software. Then you can happily write SQL queries. Here also, you can happily write SQL queries. Other approach is programmatic, like Java, Python, Spark, .NET, AWS data engineering, Azure data engineering, SQL data engineering, anything. Let's say BI tools like Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, they can also use JDBC or ODBC to connect our Redshift. So there are multiple ways to connect Redshift. One way is using query editor. Other way is either JDBC or ODBC. Any client which supports JDBC or ODBC can connect with Redshift. Right? Yeah. Let's begin. In this session, we are going to see creating database, creating schema in Amazon Redshift, and loading data and run SQL queries. Loading data and run SQL queries. Unloading data, we are going to see after loading data and running. Okay. First, let's start creating database and loading the data from S3 bucket. Okay. So let me create a database and create a schema. Let's go Redshift. Let's go Amazon Redshift. Sorry. Here, let's write a query. So here, city. Here I'm writing queries. Create a database, sales data. You can select a query. You can click and run, or you can execute. Uh, you can execute. Control Enter. Next one. Next one. Use sales underscore data. Switch from switch from this one, or you can go here. You can refresh this one. You can see under this work group, you can see three databases. Just now we created sales underscore data. In this sales underscore data, a public schema is created. A public schema is created. Okay. So you no need to do schema creation manually. Once we create a connection, then it is created this one. Let's click on edit connection. See, we use database name dev. Instead, you can say sales underscore data. You can change with different database name. Sorry, different database name. Then India 123 123 123. Then click on save. So now which database is pointing? Default database sales underscore data. Now let's execute creating analytical schema. Control enter. See, it is executed. Go to this one, refresh, go to your database, and then you can see databases, sales underscore data. Here you can see public schema and uh, dev. You can see analytics is created, but we did not specify any. By default, you can see here it is selected. If you want a different one, then you can use sales underscore uh, data. Then it is going to connect to that one. 1 minute. Let me refresh and check. Yes, I hit a refresh. Now I am able to see sales underscore data. Then if you execute this schema, control enter, now it is going to create a schema under sales underscore data. See here, sales underscore data. You can see two schemas. One is a public schema as well as you are going to see new schema called analytics. Okay, analytics. Next one, I want to create a table. I want to load the data. I want to create a label. I want to load the data. Let me first explain the scenarios, then later we will implement this one thing. First point, first point. This is my Redshift. This is my Redshift. Okay. Under AWS, under AWS, we have Redshift data warehouse. Redshift data warehouse. Redshift data warehouse. Okay. Data warehouse. Okay. So this is AWS service. Next, we have another AWS service. Let's say storage service called S3. Another storage service called S3. S3. It is a storage service. Usually, how applications build is different applications. They are going to write data into S3 location. S3 location. Data we are getting into S3 location. S3 location. Using Redshift copy command. Redshift copy command. Redshift copy command. We can copy this data. You no need any programmatic approach. No need any programmatic approach. You can use copy command. You can directly copy the data into Redshift to tables. Redshift to tables. This is Redshift to copy command. Redshift to copy command. There are other approaches using different service called Glue, PySpark, or different approaches, different data engineering techniques we use and we load the data into Redshift to tables. This is simple, easy. No need to use complex programming. You can use simple copy command to connect source and write into target Redshift to table. If anything required to validate preliminary tests, basics, etc., then you can go with a programmatic approach. If you do not require any programmatic approach, you want to as it is data in Redshift environment. Best way is copying data using copy command. It won't take much time. Redshift will take and care to connect to source S3 table and writes in Redshift data environment. Usually, if we have huge volumes of data, huge volumes of data, so we can use these kind of approaches. These kind of approaches, if no validation checks are required, then use copy command, copy the data into table. If any preliminary checks are required, do that using or PySpark, do that check and write it into Redshift data warehouse table. Okay, this is all loading data into S3 from S3 to Redshift table. Sometimes, sometimes client is feeling that it is costly. It is costly, and you do not want to continue with Redshift. You do not want to continue with Redshift. One thing, one thing. He feels costly. Then you do not want to continue with Redshift. Then we can unload the data into S3. Unload the data into S3. This is one purpose. Second purpose. Let's say my client is good, big client like a banking, healthcare client. What existing applications doing? Existed applications they are using JDBC or ODBC. They are directly loading data into Redshift. My client want to maintain one more data set in S3 location. Then you can load data from Redshift to S3. You want to maintain two copies, one at data warehousing, another copy you want to maintain in S3. Mostly first scenarios they go with unloading, and second scenario is also possible when you want to maintain multiple copies of data in different services. So loading and unloading happen multiple times in Redshift environment. You may is insert query also work? Yes, we never go with insert comes in warehousing. Small data we never go for data warehousing. It is we do with the databases, not with the data warehouses. Writing single, inserting one record, two records, five records, 10 records, such kind of activities we never do in databases. It is possible, we never do. Small data, never go with data warehouses. We never do insert operations. We can do, but it never recommended. Okay. Yeah. Let's continue master Amazon Redshift tip. In this session, let's discuss how to load data from S3 to Amazon Redshift table and then write SQL queries on top of tables. Okay. So we already created database sales underscore data and we created a schema called analytics. So this is my sales. Okay. In that we created analytics schema. So this is analytics schema. In this currently there are no tables. There are no tables. Okay. Now let's start loading data from AWS S3 to Redshift table. For this one, for this one, we are going to see uh, create S3 bucket and load the file. Uh, in our case, we are loading the data. Usually, uh, S3 contain data, and as a Redshift developer, we are responsible to load the data into Redshift tables. Okay. Yeah. Let me open AWS Management Console. I already logged into AWS Cloud. I'm opening S3 in a new tab. I'm opening S3 in a new tab. Okay. In this, I am creating a bucket. Bucket name is Akkem Sreenivas hyphen Redshift. Okay. Then uncheck this box and check I acknowledge. Then click on create a bucket. Click on create a bucket. Okay. And then go to Akkem Sreenivas Redshift bucket. Here, see, I am going to create a folder called sales. Let me create a folder sales. In this sales folder, I am going to load sales.csv file. Let me open datasets location, C drive, under datasets, under AWS Redshift. I have sales.csv. I am uploading this sales.csv in this location. Let me upload this file and click on upload and click on close. Click on close. Now, now, now let's continue Redshift part. So see, we have created a bucket and loaded file into S3 location. Then create a table in Redshift. So in Redshift, I am creating I am creating uh, table, create sales table. Let's create a sales table here. Go to Redshift query editor, then create a table, select this query, control enter. So we created a table successfully. Now I want to load the data. I want to load the data. See, very important point here is we created a bucket. We created a bucket with this name. Then I created a table. I created a table. But S3 is different to service. Redshift is different to service. Then how one service can communicate with the other service? Using IAM. So we need to create a IAM role. Create a IAM role. Let's say step 3. Step 3. Okay. Create a IAM role. Create a IAM role. To give an access. So go to IAM service. Go to IAM service. Let me open IAM service. I'm opening in a new tab. So this is my IAM service. In this I am creating a role. Let's create a role. Create a role. So it is allow AWS services. to communicate with other AWS services. Okay, here use case is Redshift. Redshift require S3 access. So here Redshift customizable Redshift allow cluster to call AWS services on behalf of you, or allow Redshift cluster to call AWS services on behalf of you. So you can select anyone. Uh, let's say I'm selecting first one. Click on next button. Here I am assigning S3 full access. I am assigning this policy. I am giving name is uh, Redshift Redshift hyphen role. Redshift hyphen role. Then click on create a role. Okay. Go to that role, Redshift hyphen role. Here you can see ARN. This is ARN. Copy this ARN. Copy this ARN. Okay. Now load data from S3 to load data from S3 to Amazon table. Here use this IAM ARN. Service role, Amazon Redshift commands access role. 1 minute. Yeah. Remember one more important point today. One we can create role, and other one while setuping uh, Amazon Redshift, a role is created. This is service role. AWS service role for Redshift. You can see this role is created. For this role, for this, you can add a permission. You can see policies. We have only one policy, Redshift to linked service policy. So only one policy is attached. Let's take this one, ARN, and let's use this ARN, and let's use this ARN inside this one. Let's try. Um, we created IAM role. We created IAM role. Let's take this ARN. Let's take this ARN. Okay. And use this ARN. Use ARN and remove spaces. Remove spaces. Okay. And then our bucket name. Take a bucket name. So go to S3 location, and this is our copy S3 URI, and then enter this S3 URI of until your folder. Let's enter this one. If there is any space, remove that spaces. Remove that spaces. And then I'm using copy command. Under sales data, there is analytic schema. In that, there is a table called sales. Sales. From this file, from this file, load this file data into this table and use this IAM rule. Use this IAM rule to access S3, and my file is a CSV file, and delimiter of this file is a comma, and it contain a header, ignore header, and region is AP-south-1. But my region here, my region, if you see, I used different region. See, United States, North Virginia, US-East-1, US- US-East-1, East-1. Take this command, take this command and execute this command in Redshift query editor. Okay, let's select this entire command, control enter. So error cannot copy into non-existing table cells. We created a cells. We created a cells. Okay, let's refresh this one and check default database. So here under dev, under public, you can see there are no tables. Under sales, under public, table is created. Here we didn't mention, while creating table, we did not mention schema name. That's why it is created under public. Public. Okay. Let's execute this command once again. Take this one and then control enter. See, here error is unauthorized exception, error type, message the requested role is not associated to cluster. We created, but that is not associated with the cluster. Then go to Redshift. Go to Redshift. Okay. While creating cluster, you can see role is created. Let me show cluster role. Let me show cluster role. So this is our namespace. In this you can see work group, and click on this work group. You can see here data access. Here you can see VPC, and then you are going to see a role. Let's check where role is created. JWC URL, OWC URL, and work group ARN. Work group ARN. And go to serverless Redshift, and here select namespace, and check here any role. So this is namespace name, namespace ID, namespace ARN, and then uh, data backup, click on database and check security and encryption. And here, see, we did not create IAM role. Remember, we have an option while setting create IAM role, but we did not create that time. If it is not created, create a IAM role, manage IAM role, and here create IAM role and full access, any S3 bucket, okay, create IAM role as a default. So this is save changes. Now you can see this IAM role is associated with our cluster. Take this IAM role and use this IAM role. Use this IAM role. IAM role ARN. Check any spaces. No. Here we have space. Okay. Okay. Let's take this one and let's execute this query. Let's execute this query. And here schema name is public. Take this command, control enter. Now it is started executing and loading data into our table. Yeah. See, load into table, sales completed successfully. 10 records are loaded successfully. Clear writing, how to load data from AWS S3 to AWS Redshift table. Now let's see how to run SQL queries on AWS Redshift tables. I created multiple examples. So let's see. We have created table. We have created table. Okay, this is my sales table, and I copied data from S3 location to sales table. Now I am writing query step. Now I am writing query one. So remember, team, if you remember, I said uh, AWS Redshift implemented similar to PostgreSQL are based on PostgreSQL. It supports SQL queries and see SQL queries. Okay, same SQL queries. Let's see. This is my sales table. Sales table. I want sales date and some quantity into price as a total and group by sales date, order by sales date. Select this query, control enter. You can see sales date wise sum. So and so date, this is total sales. So date wise and date also we did group by and order by. So order by default is ascending order. Okay. Next I'm writing another query. I want top three customers by total spend. So customer ID sum of quantity into price as a total spend from sales table, group by customer ID. So for each customer, it calculates this sum of total spend, then and order by this total spend. Means we get high salaries because descending order. If it is ascending order, low to high. And because of this order by descending order, we get we get top salaries first, followed by lower, and we said limit to 3. We get top 3 spend. Let's select this one, control, enter. See, these are three clients spend more money. Next query is query 3, products with the top 3 highest sales, product wise sales. Same as customer. Here we are using product ID as a select query, and group by also we are using product ID. Total quantity order by descending order. Let me select this query, control enter. Okay, once we create a table, once we load the data, we can write SQL query. It supports SQL queries. Yeah. Let's continue master Amazon Redshift, and let's continue how to unload data from Amazon Redshift to Amazon S3. Let's say, let's say Redshift contain data. Redshift contain history of data. Okay. My client want to maintain one more copy of this data into S3. One more copy into S3. This is one reason. Second reason, my client do not want to continue Redshift. Then he want to maintain here. My client want to make a backup of this data in one copy into S3. Multiple reasons. Maybe client want to unload data from Amazon Redshift to S3. So to perform unload activity, we have a command called load. To load, we have copy command. Unload, we have unload command. Okay. In unload command, we will write a query. We will write a select query. This select query return whatever conditions you write. Based on that, it will return results. The results we are going to write it into S3 location, and we have to use IAM role for communicating Redshift to S3, and we have to specify what format you want to and what delimiter you want to use. If you want a header, you can specify which region you want to load. Okay. Yeah, let me first. Let's continue it. So first to create path, output path. So unload output. I'm creating one folder called unload output. Go to S3 location. In our bucket, I'm creating one folder name unload output, create a folder. Okay, this is my folder. Copy S3 URL. This is my folder path. Then here I'm executing this command, unload command. Observe, uh, in this S3 location, let's remove spaces and take this loading command. Sorry, this rule ERN and add this ARN. Okay, then uh, copy this command. Before that, change this region US hyphen east hyphen 1. Let me copy this command. Go to Redshift and write this query. So select this entire command. Control Enter. So unload is successful with the 10 records. Go to S3 location, verify the data. So verify whether data is unloaded or not. Okay, let's go to S3 location and refresh this one. You can see sales underscore 00, and in this you can click on download. You can go to file and you can open this file. You can see data is loaded into S3 location. Okay, clear, right?